How's it going?
Good,
Yeah,
doing good. Yeah. Is it coming through okay on your end? Like our internet is kind of spotty, so
yeah,
like
no,
video.
yeah, ours is coming through fine.
Okay, because I was saying, because the other thing I could do is I could try and record it from my end too and see if it's any better, but I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, it seems to
Internet's
work.
internet.
Yeah, I
Okay,
did
good,
I interviewed Rick Bradshaw last week from Africa, so
oh yeah,
and
yeah,
that worked really well. So
good,
I'm getting the hang of this thing.
sweet.
Yeah. So first of all, how are you and the kids?
No, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
how you
yeah.
guys occupying your time?
Occupying our time. Yeah, you know what's funny is that it's yeah, there's parts of it that we're busier than we were before, and other parts where the kids are kind of getting a little bored.
Yeah,
So yeah, I know we do our best, and we're I think we've been a little bit more flexible on things like screen time because normally, right, and it's just the reality, like it's just and our kids are communicating a lot with their friends on screens because they can't see them in person. So I think we're just trying to be a bit more flexible with that. Yeah, no, we're just doing stuff around the house, and we just it's kind of nice with the, well, I would say nicer weather, but I don't know, it's not really nice right now. Yeah, no, I don't know, it's snowing here, so
yeah,
but yeah, no, just
sorry.
yeah, it's so yeah, we're doing a little bit of stuff outside, and we did a bunch of yard work last week, and got things cleaned up, and we're putting in a couple of raised garden beds, and so just trying to stay busy doing whatever. We go for drives every once in a while, just pile everyone in the van, let's go for a drive, but usually we have to bribe them with ice cream. Because the kids would rather stay home. So I was like, no, guys, come on, let's go. Is there going to be ice cream? So yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, I've driven. Yeah. I've had that experience many times. What are we going to eat?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
yeah, it's showing your bandwidth is a bit low. So if we cut out, I'll send you another invitation.
Okay.
And things. So how are things happening with your ministry right now? What's new?
Yeah, it just seems to be like every day there's something new. It's interesting because when all of this started and everything was kind of stay at home protocols, we probably about 4 weeks every day you just kind of felt like you were in problem solving mode.
Yeah.
And trying to brainstorm and figure out what do we do with this and how do we do that and things like that, and lots of really, really fast learning, even how to use Zoom and all that kind of stuff. So it's been probably the first 4 weeks was a bit of a challenge. And then I think probably the last 2 weeks, we've kind of felt like we've got a bit of pocket of new normal, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it has been honestly a lot of these kinds of things where we're connecting with youth online. Our creative arts program, they had season-ending performances that was supposed to happen actually this past weekend, this Mother's Day weekend. We were supposed to have our big musical theater productions, and that obviously didn't happen. So, but our staff, our creative arts director, and our volunteers are still meeting with all the kids in the program every single week on Zoom. And so they basically kept their existing schedule and then converted it all online. And then a lot of emails back and forth with parents, checking in with families. It actually just heard from a family this weekend that through our creative arts director that they're struggling, and so how do you support them online and things like that. And so yeah, it's been a huge change for us, but it's been really exciting too to see what opportunities are there. I think it's funny because one of the quotes I used with the Cougars in my chaplaincy program a lot is, inside of every challenge lies an opportunity waiting to be discovered. And I feel like that's just what we're living right now, right? That we have this significant challenge, but there's amazing opportunities within it if we just look for them and if we grab onto them and then act on them, right? And so it's been really cool to see just different things, come to play, and really awesome to see youth engage in the challenge too. Like that's the thing. Like we talk about how we see the hope and potential in every young person, and yet with all this online stuff that we're doing that may be a little bit above our heads, youth are just jumping right in because they're early adopters, right? And so they just are early adapters. They jump right in, and so it's really cool to see them just engage in new things and teach us some stuff. To be honest,
Yeah.
There's been some of our Zoom calls where we're like, "How do we do this?" And then one of the kids will be like, "Oh, just do that." I'm like, "Oh, all right, sweet, thanks." So it's been kind of cool to see that. So yeah.
Before we sign off, there's something I want to ask you how to do too. So
Yeah.
your
Sure.
brain. I got staff meeting tonight. I want to show them a video. So
Nice.
yeah. Now you're working from home, and
Yeah.
you're obviously continue to be involved in your church. I really like Caleb's announcements he was doing last week, and
Yeah, he's fun.
yeah, things like that. But what do you how do you see this playing out in the coming months? What are you guys going to try to do to kind of break out of the bubble a little bit and start connecting with new people?
Yeah, that's a really tricky question, to be honest. And I think it's something that we've been not just here locally, but even I've been on multiple Zoom calls with executive directors from across the country with YFC and our national staff, and that's a really tricky one because it's hard to anticipate what next might look like, right? And so it's almost like we do. We're looking at something that I've heard the term like situational planning, where we're looking at, okay, if things open up in the month of May, what does that look like? If it's June, what does it look like? If it's July, and so on and so forth. And so it's really hard to kind of know what to do. I know we have some summer camp programming planned for that end of July, and we're planning like it's going to happen, but also realizing that it may not happen, because for us, like a lot of camps, we're talking large numbers. And so for us with our camp program, we have 140 people in total, including staff and volunteers. And so the only way we'd be able to run that in full capacity is if the government allowed, gatherings of at least 150 people. So who knows how far we're going to be before we get there? I don't know. And definitely like engaging in like connecting with new people. That's something that actually I was on a Zoom call last week with YFC Canada and executive directors across the country. We were talking about that specific thing. How do we engage with new people online, and looking at social media strategy? So not just social media, because there's a difference between strategy and communication, right? Like social media communication is communicating what's already happening to the people that already follow you, right? Like here's an update, all that. And that's really what we've been doing over the last few weeks, is keeping people up to date of what's happening. But social media strategy is very different in the sense of how do we connect with new people online to engage them with what we're doing and how we can serve them. And so that's something that we're looking at right now. And it's, really we're looking at one of the things that we're talking about is how video is actually much more engaged, that has a higher engagement level on social media than even pictures do. And so looking at what kind of video, what does that look like? How do we create meaningful video? And of course, you can look at it and go, well, I don't have all the resources to create this really super high-end, production video, but that's actually not the point. The point is that you're doing something. And so, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So we're going to look at just different ways that we can create, meaningful videos, short videos online, and then also boost them. And so that's the other thing too, is that like Facebook and Instagram, they're really smart. And so they're always looking for ways to monetize their business, right? And so, I may look at our Facebook page for Youth Unlimited and go, oh, I've got 440 followers. That's awesome. And so when I post something, 440 people see it. But in fact, that's not true. And so it actually could be significantly less than 440. And so then you look at, okay, well, then I have to boost that post and pay for some advertising. But advertising is pretty cheap for Facebook and Instagram. And so we're looking at that as well and building that into our budget. Because I think the stat that I saw at our meeting last week was you can reach 1,000 people for about $10. And so really, if you build a little bit of social media advertising into your budget, and then boost some of those those kind of key posts, then again, you're reaching more people because it gets on their feed and things like that. So there's a lot of learning about that for sure the last week.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're using that and you're communicating with that. What about leadership training? Is your headquarters, are they continuing, are they going to use means like this to continue your training and conferences and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been really thankful for our national team, our national service team. They've just been, they really jumped right at the gun as soon as this started to happen. I mean, immediately we were having Zoom meetings happening, and I mean, we're right in the middle of across the country of a whole rebrand launch, and we've released a new logo and icon and things of that, and so all of this is happening at the same time, and so it's been really neat. We've had with our national team, usually every 2 weeks we have at least one Zoom meeting. And then what's really nice as well is that we have a training program called Momentum, which helps to facilitate and train all of our staff across the country around fundraising, which is important when you're running a nonprofit. And so the really neat thing is that they've actually ramped it up high gear. And so every week there is a new training session available for all of our staff across the country. And then our conference, we had a big national conference that was supposed to be in Saskatoon the end of June. That's where 400 and some odd staff across the country get together every year. And so that's obviously had to be canceled. But our national team is actually looking at what elements of that conference can we convert to online for people, so when they're at home during those same dates, June 29th to July 3rd, they can still engage in, and so they're looking at that, and they're also looking at starting some it's called the Q conference in the States, and it's basically they use the same kind of model as TED Talk, where they're 7 to 18 minute kind of little mini messages. And so they're actually looking at creating a YFC Canada Q conference that would take place every quarter. And so every 3 months we'd have, a few hours of a little thing that we can go on and connect with each other. And that's been actually really cool to connect with each other across the country.
There was one 2 weeks ago, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that go? I wasn't able to look in on that, but how'd it go?
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. The neat thing is that so what we did was, you went to the Q website to watch the videos. It was all live streamed. But then we also had a Zoom call with all of our YFC staff and kept that Zoom call live while the Q conference was going on. And so we used the chat format in the Zoom meeting, and we were actually able to chat with each other as we were watching videos, which is really cool, because if someone, if there was an aha moment for someone, they're like, oh, this is a really meaningful thing, that quote or that whatever that guy said, then we could share them with each other, and then you're talking about what you just experienced, right? So we kind of had a bit of a still of a conference feel to it, even though we were in all separate locations. So it was really cool.
That is cool. So you, how do you think this challenge has enriched you personally?
Yeah, you know what? It's an interesting thing, because I think because there was so much change happening so quickly in the first 4 weeks, I honestly really struggled. Because everything was different so fast. And I was, you're trying to get used to everything, and I'm working from home. And so what does that look like? There's, the kids are around all the time. And I struggled with a lot of different things, to be honest, right? I mean, we all struggle in different ways. And it was a tough thing in the first 4 weeks or so. But one of the things that I think has been really good for me, and the way that God just uses situations to speak to us and to encourage us, is the whole concept of wrestling through adversity. We're a very fast society. We like things immediate, right? We like our internet to be fast. We like our food to be fast. And I think we've lost a little bit in our society, especially Western culture, the value of wrestling through things and waiting. And I'm working on a video, right? Talking about video, I'm working on a video right now. It's a fundraising video that's what we're doing for our chapter right now, and it's 3 minutes long, and it's taking me hours to put this thing together. Only because I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm learning a lot, and I'm using a lot of different resources, and I'm reaching out to people and say, hey, can you look at this and give me some feedback? And I'm getting some really meaningful feedback from people, which is really helpful. But man, it's taken a long time. But that in itself, I think it's just one of those lessons of they're often, there's a leadership guy, I can't remember who it is, but he talks about this all the time. He says, often things that are of great value are the hardest to accomplish.
Hmm.
And I just wonder if
Hmm.
our society has lost that, right? And so for us to wrestle through things that have great value, that's a really good thing. So that's probably been one of the biggest things. And also the in the middle of all that, that God is still there.
Yeah.
And one thing that came up at a Zoom meeting last week, I think it was one of our prayer meetings, and just the idea of that we can trust God with what is unknown, because in God it is fully known.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's just that's freeing, right? Like that,
Yeah.
and for us right now in this time where we don't know what next looks like, we can trust God with that, because in Him it's actually fully known. He already knows.
Yeah.
And we're kind of along for the ride a little bit, right? So enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Exactly. So are you finding your Sundays are a lot different then? You guys are normally very involved in the church and doing a lot of things. What do your Sundays look like now?
Yeah, our Sundays are kind of funny. You kind of feel like you're going to the movies. It's like this weird. All right, okay, guys, let's get up and let's everyone up and let's go downstairs and watch church. We don't call it that, but it's interesting to our involvement level is definitely different. I mean, certainly we've been involved in some of the things that Caleb's done, some of the announcements, and we recorded Teresa and Noah and I recorded a worship song for the church to use, which is actually just used this past Sunday.
Yep.
And so that's neat to do that from home. And I've spoken, so it's been neat to still be involved. Teresa's still very involved in working in the kids area from home and doing a bunch of online engagement with parents and that kind of thing in the kids area. But yeah, Sundays are very different. They look and feel different, right? What used to be more of an all morning commitment, right, where you get to church at maybe 8:30 in the morning, and you get everything ready and do practices and make sure the sound is all blah blah whatever, and then you just the whole thing, right? And then you're not home until like maybe 12:30 or 1. Now it's 40 minutes. And you didn't travel anywhere. So it's been different. One of the neat things that our church has done, which I really appreciate when I participated, is a Zoom lobby after the service. And so as soon as the service is done, because they basically have it all pre-recorded ahead of time that week, and then they premiere it on YouTube, and so you watch it live on YouTube at 10 o'clock. And then as soon as the service is done, they open up a Zoom lobby, and anybody can from the church can connect with people on Zoom and talk about the service and play a game with each other, that kind of stuff. So that's been really cool. Again, another way to connect with each other in a virtual way, and so that's been pretty awesome. But it's pretty neat.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, we're finding that I find all the prep now is during the week, and actually Sundays you just kind of sit and watch and worship and and do all those kind of things. Now, Tony, when you were with us and you continue to lead in worship and stuff, how do you think this experience is going to affect worship as far as people in the church and that kind of need and how that is being addressed?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think worship is one of those things where there's two different elements to it, right? There's personal worship and corporate worship.
Yeah.
And personal worship is really important for us in our walk with Jesus, in our relationship, but corporate worship, there's a value in corporate worship that is really important for us as individuals. It's kind of a weird thing to say that, this corporate thing is actually good for me as an individual, but it actually is. It's really important for us as individuals to have corporate worship together. So when we don't have those opportunities, it affects things. And I know that, people that are significantly extroverted, they're the ones that are feeling it more than any. I think the introverts are not feeling as much. At the same time, the introverts are probably going a little crazy right now because they can't have the alone time because everybody's in the house, right? But around worship, I think that there's what I'm experiencing around me, not just my family, but people around me and people that I connect with online, is that there's a strong desire to be able to get together and worship together. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens when we can start to gather again. And I think my mom said it actually on a Mother's Day call yesterday. She said, I think I think we may, in Western culture, we may look at Sunday gatherings in a different light, and I think some people have looked at attending church services as a requirement or a thing that we should do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are going to start looking at it differently and going, well, this is actually a really amazing privilege that we get to do,
Yeah.
right? And add some value to that, because we need each other, beyond just screen to screen.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm still trying to get my mind around. I've watched our congregation, and I've actually been very impressed. Everybody's still engaged, and my interactions with them, they're doing really well, and they're getting what they need from online sources and things like that. But you're right. There's so many things that we just do day to day, and we've always done, and figure we always will do, that we can take for granted. That now that we've kind of gone through something like this, you go, how will the world look differently? I had a great aunt that went through the Great Depression, and she never married, but she would shop and hoard items. We talk about people hoarding toilet paper.
Yeah.
She would have 50 bundles of toilet paper. She had 3 fridges, 2 pianos, multiple stoves. Like, you quite literally couldn't go through her house. Like, she had a real problem with it. She'd buy diapers, even though she didn't have a family, because in the Great Depression, goods were currency. Yep. And she was greatly affected by that. I don't know how this will affect our society, but you wonder if things like, hey, we got to go to church today, is going to make a huge difference with people, or hey, I got to go out for coffee, things like that. They are going to make this, make us appreciate those things, and how that will affect us permanently, as far as people that have gone through this, right?
Yeah.
How about the world? YFC isn't just in Canada. I mean, obviously you guys have effects all over the world. How are you guys seeing your international endeavors go, and what's it like out there for you guys?
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at the world, because certainly this pandemic is affecting pretty much every country in the world. There might be very, very small pockets of the world that aren't affected, but the reality is probably 99.9% is affected. And I actually had a Zoom call with several European YFC staff last week. So I was meeting with to talk about a new international partnership with our chapter and with YFC in Georgia. So I was talking with Georgia, and then on the call as well was the national director from YFC Ukraine, who supports the new growth in Georgia, and then the Eastern European area director, who was in Belarus. And so talking with them, it was interesting because, again, like our perspective informs our opinions, right? And our beliefs. And it's interesting because I asked that exact question to Aliso, who's in Georgia, and I asked, like, what does ministry look like for you right now? And she said, well, we run these these daycare centers, and not daycare like we would think of a daycare, like it's really for all ages, and because the education system is very poor, and health system is very poor there. So they basically operate these centers where kids and youth can come and get meals, homework help, all that kind of stuff. And so they're doing that, but of course that's all shut down. And so she said, we're dropping off groceries to families. And we're calling the families who have phones. And I thought, we don't, right? Everyone has phones here.
Yeah.
Right. And like, there's an actual, I was thinking in my mind, like, man, there's an actual country in this world that doesn't have phones. But that's the reality, is that there are people in Georgia that don't have phones. And so for them, it's hard because, they're trying to connect with all the youth in their daycare centers. Yeah. And the ones that don't have phones, they're doing their best. They're dropping off groceries when they can, and it's a really hard thing. So it's really difficult depending on where you are around the world and what the services are. It's certainly a challenge across the world.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Crazy times, buddy. So what can we pray for yourself and your family and your ministry? What can we?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sanity would be good.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We haven't killed our kids yet, so that's a plus.
Us too. Every day's a gift.
Right?
And I tell them.
Right, exactly. Like you do a head count when you go to bed, like, oh, they're still here. Good. It's yeah. I guess for our family, just yeah, just patience with each other, right? I mean, we're around each other all the time, and it starts to wear down. And I know that our kids are starting to get bored, and they want to get out and do things. And I think when you hear announcements that certain retail businesses are starting to open, there's this mixture between excitement that things might start changing and also fear. Yes. Right. Of the unknown and what that looks like, because obviously the pandemic is still happening. So, just patience with each other and trusting God. And then for ministry wise, that we would trust God with what is unknown, and at the same time have the courage to not only recognize opportunities but take advantage of opportunities. Because like I said before, I think there's a lot of opportunities lying hidden in this challenge, and we need to see them and then take advantage of them. Yeah. And just do what God has called us to do, meet the needs of youth. And so however, whenever we engage with them, that is first and foremost.
Okay. Are the Cougars, are they talking about playing to empty stadiums or empty arenas and things like that, or what's the word from them?
Nothing officially, but I would not be surprised if it is certainly being talked about at a league level. I mean, they had their prospect camps in April that were canceled, and training camp is supposed to start middle of August. Mm-hmm. That's the scheduled start. So I haven't heard anything from the team yet what that's going to look like. But I would not be surprised if they start talking about that, about doing empty stadiums, mainly because I mean, the teams would obviously lose a lot of money that way because no ticket sales. Yeah. But these leagues are used quite a bit by NHL and NCAA scouts, and so they're looking for their next players too, right? And so you just can't shut down these kind of leagues without having any reciprocal impact on a bunch of things. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're talking about it.
Cool. All right, well, stay on, but I just want to let you know that we're praying for you and gonna stop recording. But KCC, we're thinking about you. We support you, and we just thank you for all you've done. All right, awesome. God bless.
Thanks, guys.
My daughter, done everything we can. It's all gone terribly wrong. She has no respect for me or her mother. She has no desire to go to college. All she wants to do is watch television and eat junk food. And the boys she likes, nothing but trouble. Kid is filthy. You can see them eloping. She's 4. But the signs are all there.
What signs?
She had